Hello, my name is Greg Braden, and I want to begin by first thanking you for spending a few minutes of your day with me through this video. And I know your time is valuable. I'm going to get right to the point. I have a new book that will be released in October of this year, October of 2017. The title of the book is Human by Design, From Evolution by Chance to Transformation by Choice. And I think the title says the whole thing. New discoveries have overturned 150 years of scientific thinking when it comes to us, to you and me, the way we think about ourselves. And this is important because it is more than simply a philosophical question. When we ask, who am I as an individual? Who are we collectively? There are so many of us on this planet. Who are we? It's more than a philosophical question for this reason. The way we answer, who am I and who are we? The way we answer this question, it determines the way we live our lives. It determines the way we solve our problems and how we think about one another. Whether we're talking about the most intimate relationships of our lives, who we feel that we can invite into our lives as a partner, how long our partnerships last once we create them, the way we heal our bodies, the way that we think about the hate crimes that are developing throughout the world, hate based upon religion, hate based upon the color of our skin, hate based upon sexual orientation, the way we think about our relationship to the earth and the climate, the way we think about life and death, suicide, assisted suicide, abortion, the death penalty, as different as all of these are from one another, there's a common theme that runs through every one of those topics that I just mentioned. And the theme is simply this. It's the way we think about ourselves. Who am I? Who are we? The new discoveries that are based in the best science of the modern world are changing the way that we have answered that question traditionally. So that's the good news. The new discoveries are now revealing the deepest truths of our origin, our history, our destiny, and our fate. But the flip side is that news, the new discoveries, are not being shared in the mainstream. They're not being shared in mainstream classrooms, in mainstream textbooks. They're not being shared in mainstream news media, the documentaries that are being shown on the cable television stations. And so we're still solving the problems of a new world through an old thinking that no longer is serving us. It has worked in the past. The old thinking worked well enough to get us where we are today, but the world changed. And when the world changes, we've got to change the way we think and the way we live. The new science is giving us the reasons to do that, but it can only help us if we know about the discoveries. So the new book, Human by Design, is divided into two parts. The first part is the science, where I'm sharing these new discoveries. The second part is how we apply those discoveries in our everyday lives. And this is what I want to talk to you about just for a few minutes. I want you to know that the new science is telling us that evolution, Darwin's theory of evolution, as you and I have been taught in the classroom, is not our story. It is no longer supported by the evidence when it comes to us and our origins in this world. What the evidence is showing us, the physical evidence, is showing us that we emerged on this planet 200,000 years ago in a way that is very mysterious. We did not develop slowly and gradually over long periods of time as the evolutionary family tree would suggest. And we've all seen this tree in the past where we have all of the fossils, the skeletons of the ancient beings, of Australopithecus and Lucy from Olduvai Gorge. We've seen these in the Smithsonian and through the science in the textbooks. And at the top of those charts, there's the skull of us, the modern humans, and the lines that connect us to each of those ancient forms of life. Those lines, if you look closely at those lines, you will see that they are dashed or broken lines. They are not solid lines. The reason they are not solid is because they are speculative or inferred relationships. There is no physical evidence connecting you and me to those beings of the past. The evidence is believed to exist, but the evidence has yet to be found. So the physical evidence is not supporting the theory, and we've known that for a while. But now, the new DNA evidence is telling the story. And what the DNA is showing is that very specific portions of the human DNA that make you and I unique, that makes us who we are today. It gives us our ability for empathy and sympathy and compassion in a way that no other form of life has. Deep intuition. It gives us these abilities on demand in a way that no other form of life on earth has today. That DNA formed very quickly in a very precise way in a very short period of time. It did not happen slowly, gradually, over a long period of time, the way that Darwin's theories would suggest. And I want to give you an example. Human chromosome 2 is a perfect example. And I don't want to be really technical, but I want you to know the science. And what the science is telling us now is that human chromosome number 2, it's the second largest chromosome in your body. It forms 8% of all the DNA in your cells. This is the chromosome that is responsible for your brain emerging 50% larger than any other form of life, for what is called the neocortex, that gives us the ability for logic and for emotion and all the things I just mentioned, the empathy, the sympathy, the compassion. That part of our brain formed very quickly. Chromosome 2, human chromosome number 2, has the genes responsible for that. And here's where it gets really interesting. The science is telling us that this chromosome formed as a result of a fusion, an ancient fusion, where two previously existing chromosomes were literally fused together. And after the fusion happened, the overlapping functions, the redundant functions, were either turned off or removed altogether in a very precise way to stabilize that fusion and make us who we are today. Now, scientists are telling us this happened quickly, happened very precisely, and here's the key. The science now is beginning to enter in what is called forbidden territory because the fusion appears to be intentional. And this is where science has to stop, because all the science can show us is what happened. They cannot tell us why it happened. But the scientists are saying that this is beyond what evolution could do on its own. So it appears that we are intentionally imbued with these extraordinary capabilities. And there are more, and I go into these in the book, the capability of human speech, complex speech, for example, in human chromosome number 7. So the bottom line to all of this is that we appear to be something more than random biology, than accidental mutations, gradually, slowly over long periods of time. We emerged on this earth 200,000 years ago in these bodies, and the science is telling us we haven't changed in 200,000 years. We are today as we were 200,000 years ago. And we don't know precisely what happened or why, but what I can tell you is that these new discoveries are opening the door to the extraordinary capacities, the human potential that is only now being realized, and that's the second part of the book. And that's what I want to talk to you about now as well. Because once we begin to understand that we are literally wired, we are designed for these extraordinary capacities on demand, the ability to trigger deep states of intuition on demand, to trigger the anti-aging chemistry in our bodies on demand, to trigger a powerful immune response on demand, access our subconscious on demand, create resilience to change on demand, and so much more. The fact that we are designed to have these experiences suggests that we are intended to use them. And this is where the marriage of science and spirituality comes together, because our most ancient and cherished spiritual traditions, the indigenous traditions of the past, gave us the keys to awakening these extraordinary abilities within each of us. So in the second part of this book, I am sharing with you what those discoveries are telling us, but I wanted to go even beyond describing the experiences. I want you to have the experiences. Ideally, I would love to be with every one of you in an intimate setting, in a seminar or a workshop somewhere in the world, so that together we can share these experiences. Realistically, I know that there are times where I will never see most of you who I'm speaking with. I know that. So in the book, I left you not only the description, but the techniques, the actual instructions for how we awaken these experiences in our lives, step-by-step techniques. So this is Human by Design, the two parts, the science that tells us the new discoveries and the applications of those discoveries in our lives. And I also want you to know that every seminar that I will be offering will be based upon these new discoveries. And I'm going to be coming to a city near you very, very soon. So when I do, I will have the opportunity to direct you, lead you through these experiences, share with you the techniques, the actual experiences for how we awaken these extraordinary capacities in our lives. You know, there was an American author in the 1960s. Her name was Rachel Carson. And she made an extraordinary statement in the 1960s. She said, "We only destroy the things that we do not value, and we can only value the things that we understand." Well, I think if you and I are honest with ourselves, then we will admit that human life is being destroyed at an unprecedented rate on this planet, and it's happening right in front of us, right in front of our faces. And although there are many well-intentioned efforts to change what is happening, to change the hate based upon race and religion, sexual orientation, the abuse of the human body through drugs and alcohol, all of these things that are happening, they're well-intentioned, but I want you to know that they are only temporary bandages. They are only temporary bandages until we get to the core of the thinking that makes all of these human atrocities possible. If we want to change this world, if we want to change our lives, we've got to think differently about ourselves and about one another. We have to answer the question, who am I and who are we, with an answer that reflects the deep truth of the new discoveries. I don't know about you, but for me, when the evidence no longer supports the old story, it's time for a new story. And that is the bottom line to this book, Human by Design. It's the bottom line to the events that I'm sharing through this year and next year. So I'm going to invite you, check out the book, check out the conferences. And once you do that, I'm inviting you to go even further. Check in with me. Let me know through our social media or the social media of the producers. How do you feel about the material? How do you feel about the new science? What does it mean to your life? Has it changed your life at all? And it's through this conversation that you and I will establish together that we bring about the kind of change to our lives and our world that we all know is possible. So I look forward to seeing you at the event. Thank you so much. Take good care.